Good morning, everyone. This is Nate G. It is Tuesday, February 6th. We're doing a morning session here in DPL and going over some trade reviews and then talking about how to spot support and resistance on charts because we just had a nice training from D-Man that talked about managing risk. And the best way to manage risk is to know what your support and resistance levels and the end result of all of that was buy off support, sell off resistance, right? So this morning in the room, I came in and said that I liked Disney off of this low. So Disney had sort of gapped up a little bit, not gapped up, had sort of run up this morning a little bit, kind of hit a bit of a high and then pulled right back into the point of control level. And so I picked that up on a lotto for this week, and I took it off somewhere in here. I don't know that I got the top, but I got pretty close to the top there. It made that move within about an hour or two ish. And it just looks. I mean, this is the chart we're playing here. Did I like it on the 78? I mean, this is just a beauty, right? This is a TPS pattern that's pushing itself up. Earnings is what, tomorrow in the evening? Is that right? Yeah, tomorrow in the evening. But I got a nice little move out of that today, and so I took that off. I know a couple of you joined me in that one. What was the other one I had today? GD. GD this morning. We did another one of those. I like this pattern here on GD. Here on this 78, and we had a little bit of pullback almost to this 34 here, and then just grabbed some of that and flipped it right out again. Because we got a nice move out of it. So just kind of looking for little grabs and little moves. And I mean, this thing still looks fantastic. This General Dynamics chart. And if we look at it here on a daily, we are pushing all-time highs. So that's a great chart. That's in a nice trend at the moment. And we haven't quite broken that more recent high, but got a nice move out of it, so I took that one off as well. And I grabbed a little crowd not too long ago while D-Man was doing his presentation. As you can see on this chart here, this is this thing on the 195 is a beauty. And we had dipped down to the 21 here on the 195. And as you can see, sort of this trend line, this ascending trend line here. And so I picked it up as it came up off of that level. And so I'm up a little bit in it. It's not blowing anyone's hair back at the moment, but this pattern is gorgeous. So, and I'm pretty happy with that entry there. So that's kind of what I'm in. I also picked up some W Day this morning. I'm playing that kind of conservatively. As many of you know, I in another account I'm doing put credit spreads or just credit spreads. In this case, I'm going long on most of them, so they're put credit spreads. For TPS setups, and W Day was one of those that was looking good. We're getting a little bit of a breakdown of the pattern, but I'm watching this to see if it turns into a breakdown and reclaim. And if it does, that would be super bullish. I closed. I did close GD. Meta and Amazon, those are Nate Bear trades. I have been trading both of those, but I don't have anything on where I put it in the room. So S words. You say since joining DPL, you're down 90% on Meta and 85% on Amazon. Not a good start. Big losses. And so you're saying you're down 90% and 85% on those positions. You're not saying you're down that much um, on your whole account, right? So the one issue there is, and what you'll want to learn since you're newer to the service is knowing when to stop out and setting those stops on your chart and honoring those. Those are one of the biggest keys to managing your P&L and learning to just be cold and calculated and cutting them when they're not working, right? Um, and so if you don't have your own stop, um, you need you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because if it goes the direction you want, great, you made a profitable trade, but you didn't have a plan. At least that's what I'm assuming, right? Obviously we're not having a back and forth conversation, so I'm making some assumptions here that you didn't have a plan. And it's always important to make sure you have a plan. Even if it's somebody else's trade that gave you the idea, you need to have a plan that fits your own risk reward parameters, right? So, and we've talked about that a few times. There's a number of videos on it. D-Man was just kind of covering it a little bit. But it has to fit your risk reward parameters. What's your max loss on a trade based on your account size and your own risk parameters? And then being able to honor that is pretty important. Yeah, some trades will go to a full loss, but generally when Nate Bear does that, it's on a very small. Um, he's maybe got one or two contracts, and he's willing to risk those. Usually lottos, and he's willing to risk the whole value for maybe a much bigger reward, and sometimes they go to zero. But if your account can't handle that, and your risk parameters and your risk preferences can't handle that, everybody's got different risk preferences, right? Then you need to set a. I would recommend setting a different plan in place, right? And that's kind of an important key to trading in a room where other people are giving ideas. When you say you like the idea and you press the buy button, that trade needs to be your trade, right? That's why most people like, I don't know, there was some people that hit Disney today with me. And, I come in here and say, oh, I can't remember, I think it was like 40% or something along those lines on this trade. And then somebody else came in and said, oh, yeah, I hit that too for 30%. And, it's my comment to that is nice trade because you took an idea that I put in here. I didn't make that trade. Wow, sorry. I didn't make that trade for that person. They made it, and then they took their own exit. And so good on them. I take trade ideas from people in here all the time. I see a chart, I like it, I set up my own plan, and then off we go. Yeah, if you have a low threshold for risk, you know, it's probably a good idea to stay away from lottos. While they have a high reward potential, you're usually risking the full value of whatever you're buying. That's generally the risk of a lotto. So a lot of times, if I'm taking a lotto, I may be taking one contract, two, depending on the total value of the underlying stock. Carrie, you're still following your Disney up. I mean, it's still a great trade. I mean, we got earnings into tomorrow. This thing, it looks great. It looks great. Uh, I just had made 40 some percent in a matter of an hour and a half or something like that. So I thought I would take that profit, put it in my pocket. that's that's the key. So let's cover how to find support and resistance using both VP and the chart. And a lot of times, there's kind of two sides to this. Um, there's kind of two sides to this, right? The side one is being able to read the charts, and the other one is being able to read the VP. So for those of you who, let's find a good chart here that's gonna have some good. I think Disney was actually pretty good. So Disney here, right? This is a 30-minute Disney chart. And as we come into Disney, we're going to look at this in two ways. One, we're going to look at from a chart reading perspective, right? We're just going to look at the chart in this area. And then we're going to match that up to what we see from a volume profile situation. And a lot of times they're gonna match up, but not always, right? Just one helps inform the other a lot of times. So if we're playing Disney here and we're buying it, this red line that I've created here is called our point of control line. And I find that through the volume profile. This is a volume profile node. This is called a value area. And the largest portion of that is what's called the point of control for this value area. Okay, and that's where the most traders are. So volume profile on the side here is volume by price, not volume by time down here, right? And we use volume by time to see if within that 1 minute candle or within that 30-minute candle, if we have a higher number of people trading within that time frame, we know that it's a confirmed push up or a false breakout. We can read those. We can see that volume's coming in at that time. But when we look at volume profile, this piece here, this gives us volume of traders by price, which helps us find over under levels and support and resistance levels. So if I'm looking at this and let's even back it up so it's not, it doesn't already look like it's taking off. Okay, this is Disney. This is what we would look at in a TPS setup. We'd say, okay, we really like that. So how do we want to mark this up, right? I would come in here to this double bottom, right? You see these two levels here. Okay, and then there's two somewhat higher levels here that all form a visual. I'm not going to look at volume profile levels yet. They form a visual support area, right? So I can put a line in there. I can come in here. I can put kind of a secondary line here, right? And usually I make value area high, value area low. I make those in a yellow color, right? And then we're going to come up here and we can see this top. We see it once, we see it twice, we see it 3 times. Here we had a little bit of a breakout, but it immediately was smacked right back down, right? So we're going to take all of those levels, right? And I'm going to put a line in here and I'm going to say, okay, there's my value area high. Okay, so in this case, and you can see I kind of have 2 levels here. This is support within this pattern, and this is resistance. Okay, so visually, looking at this chart, I have support and I have resistance, right? Now, another way I can do that is the volume profile way, and these will match up, okay? So as I make this a little bit bigger, I didn't mean to do that, sorry about that. Let's go like that. So as I make this a little bit bigger, we can see that value area that we're in over here on the left-hand side of the screen, right? And so I can find my point of control right here. That's my red line. So that point of control is kind of an over-under. If we're below this, we can expect this to act as resistance. So you can see right here, right? We came up into that level and we rejected it a little bit. And then we came and tried again, and now we're getting above it. And what I would expect to see is there's kind of a secondary resistance level up here. We bounce there, we see that now as support, and then we start to move up. That would be kind of a natural pattern for this, a natural movement within this pattern, right? So we came down here, we touched off support, we worked our way back up to the point of control, we rejected off of it, we came into a secondary level of support, and then we pushed up through it. And now you can see there's kind of I'll even draw a secondary line. There's maybe a secondary level of support, resistance now, kind of up in this area. You can see from these spots. So a natural progression would be, now that we're above point of control, we'll probably come up into roughly this area. And if we're going to stay bullish, we're going to come and retest this. What was resistance, once we get above it, becomes support. Right? And then we start working our way up, probably do something a little like that, right? That looks like what a chart will do, right? So knowing that, now if I'm playing Disney, now Disney has gone, and okay, so I just drew that out. Now let me play out Disney and let's see what it did. Okay, so that's perfect. Did you see how many times as I played that out, this level, or roughly this level, now acted as support? It never got below that. I mean, it pierced through a little bit, but we got above it, and then it bounced off it a bunch of times, right? Which informed my trade today. I know we're on the 30-minute here, but we opened up this morning right here. This is this morning's line. We opened up, we immediately got pushed straight back down right into our VP level, which was a perfect opportunity to buy for a move up, right? Right into that point of control level. And so if I move this to like a 1-minute chart and I delete that, I'll show you what that looks like on the 1 minute, right? I don't know why that's not, I need to do that. That's right here. See? So this is the start of the day right here. I'll move it up so you can see the entirety of the pattern, right? We had already marked, right? These are our way down here support levels. Okay, right? These are some of our resistance levels up here. But we pushed up, we came right back into this point of control, right? And started our move back up. And so knowing where those lines are and marking up your chart, see, this is all that bouncing off of that level, right? That we saw when I hit play. Boom, 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 boom. Then it goes, one last test, and it's out. Okay, so back to noticing support and resistance levels, you can see them both by looking at the chart, but then also by looking at the volume profile. Okay, so you see if we're looking at, so let's look at this maybe on an hourly chart, right? Or 65 minutes, sorry. We've got our lines drawn in here, right? And then we can see this is our value area, right? Okay, that's kind of our main value area. And within that, we have one point of control and another pretty key level right there. But you can see our resistance level right here is the top. This is called a value area high, right? And then there's a level about right here, you can see, for that particular node. And I'll draw a line. Hold on a minute. Sorry, I'm not looking at chat quite as solidly as I should right now. That's maybe here. That is a value area low. Value area low. And then we have some additional VP here, which kind of gives us these spike downs, right? And so that's the reason this is where I would draw the value area on this node. But the chart informs me that our actual support is a little bit more here. And then you can see below this, you see absolutely no VP right through here. So that's how, man, I should have stayed at Disney. Look at this thing just push. Right? But what you can see here, whoa, sorry about that. That's the second time I've hit that. I always try to hit the garbage. So you can see here on Disney, right? Let me get rid of how well it's doing at the moment. Let me come all the way back to like here. Okay. So you can see, right, I marked this up on a 65-minute chart. And then when you come in to start trading on a smaller time frame, this is a 5-minute chart now. Now you have these levels on your chart. So you can see, right, when we come up and we come back into a point of control level, look at that. That's maybe a good buy spot. That's maybe a good buy spot, right? This is maybe a great buy spot if it's already on the chart. And so when you're looking at it on a 1 minute or a 5 minute and you're looking for an entry or you're just checking out charts, all of a sudden you already have your support and resistance levels. You know you like this long, right? Now you can buy it off of certain areas. You know that it's a good entry. And that's what D-Man was talking about, and I talk about a lot too, is now if this is where the chart breaks down here, that's our stop level, right? Any move below that is a stop out. Correct? If our rules are we're playing Disney, right? If we're playing Disney here on a 65-minute chart, let's say, or even a 70-minute, right? If we're playing this chart, then we know, because we've marked it up, our stop is a close below this. So then where this sits right now, based on D-Man's risk-reward parameters that he was talking about, is this right here, is this a good trade? Is this a good entry for a long? Anyone? From a risk-reward perspective, yeah, Jay got it. No, because you're way up here. This is that risk-reward box, right? Your stop's way down here, and let's just say you're playing for a move to the top of this spike, right? That's only a 1-to-1 risk-reward, right? You want an entry down here somewhere, right? Or you need a stop that's up a little higher. So that's why that's not buying off of support or resistance. Does that make sense? Yeah, Disney has earnings tomorrow, and we're not, and that's why I played it today, because it's, you know, it's pushing into earnings, and the pattern was great. But does that help explain? Does anybody have any questions on finding support and resistance using both what you see in the chart and volume profile to help support that? Yeah, Ron, that's a great question. You're asking what not not a question, it's more of a statement. Is what's challenging is to mark up support and resistance once Nate has given a trade. Support is key because if it's broken and you don't have a trade plan, you'll take large losses. That's correct. And the better you get at this, you know, so if a trade is even if D-Man comes in and says I like, you know, I like W day, This was my trade, by the way. And I'll take that one too. I'll take that one all the way to the mat. But you see, I just flipped over to W Day. What do you see? What do you see on the chart right now in terms of support and resistance levels? Yeah, it did, and I'm basic. That's not exactly what I'm getting at. So maybe I should have framed it differently. You see, I already have support and resistance, and the two kind of point of controls for this chart. They're already on this chart, and it literally takes a matter of seconds, right? So when we talk about, I've been talking about W Day for the last 3 days. I took a trade on it this morning, and yeah, it's pushed below this. And it's kind of retesting it, right? So what I'm watching for now is we've broken through this lower support level, and it's coming back up in and retesting it, right? And so there's two things that could happen here, right? We talk about a retest and go, which means it's now gonna retest that area and roll over, or this is working its way back into the pattern, and it'll probably reject off of this level, one of the 2 point of control levels, come back and retest this level here, and work its way back into the pattern. So one is a retest where it comes back up. It doesn't clear that level. It just retests it and rolls. That works this direction too, right? To the upside. Or we're coming in and we're going to reclaim the pattern and continue in this pattern that is marked by that resistance level and that support level. Does that make sense? So when let's get rid of this, right? Let me find a brand new trade. Hold on a minute. I'm going to get kind of quiet for a second because I'm looking at my scans. Okay, so hold on. And someone just asked a really good question, so I'll try and answer that as best I can here in a second. Which is, why didn't you stop out when it broke? And I will answer that question just a second. Okay, so I'm scanning over here, and here's what I'll do. You guys can just watch me scan. So I'm not gonna get into exactly what I'm doing here, but I'm looking for a brand new trade. Because the question was, okay, how do you, when somebody puts on a trade, when one of the gurus puts on a trade, or whatever you want to call it, Nate, I don't know if you like the phrase guru or not, but when somebody you're following puts on a trade, how do you set support and resistance, right? And so I'm looking for a TPS trade. One, it's important to know the edge they're playing. Perfect. Okay, so let's just say Nate or D-Man or myself came in and there's a trade announcement, and is playing Microsoft. Let's see what it looks like on the 130. Okay, perfect. Let's say playing Microsoft on the 78-minute chart. No, let's see. There's a 130, I think, here. So this isn't an actual trade. This is just an example, right? Okay, so we're gonna go Microsoft on the 130. So anybody that's gonna want to follow is gonna say, okay, MSFT, MSFT. Okay, so-and-so just got in Microsoft on the 130. Okay, do I like this trade? Okay, I'm not just gonna blindly enter it. Do I like this trade? Does it fit my risk parameters? So let me get rid of all my drawings here. Okay, so they just entered it. You can see that they're probably buying it off of this point of control level right here, right? You've got kind of a double top up here, which is, probably a preliminary target, right? We're in a squeeze here. This squeeze is kind of funky, but let's just say they're trying to bounce this within the pattern. And then you're going to come and say, okay, what's support level? And to me, support would be right about here for two reasons, right? One, it's kind of a value area low, right? Within this pattern here, we're starting to get into a value area low. And then we're also seeing kind of some support levels. Yes, we, broke through and ripped back up right there. But it's kind of giving us some support levels, and then there's a big gap right here in the volume profile, right? And so I'm going to say, all right, well, if we're targeting, 414, let's say, I'm going to look at this chart and go, all right, then my risk reward, if I bought it right this second, and that's my stop level, and this is my target, is, 3.5 to 1, almost 4 to 1. That's a good risk reward. I can see that if I look at my option chain, right? If I want to play this for this week, the Microsoft 405s are trading at about $3, right? Let's say that my my total amount that I'm willing to put into a trade is $1,000, meaning I could, if I wanted to go full, I could buy 3 contracts, right? At that level. And I would say, okay, what does the market look like right now, et cetera, et cetera? Is this a good risk reward? Risk reward is good, so check, right? If I'm buying 3 contracts of this and it drops all of what is that? It's about, let's say it's about $1, right? If I'm buying 3 contracts at $1 and it goes to my stop out point, does that fit my risk parameters or not on a 50 delta, right? So on a 50 delta, for every dollar moved, how much does that contract move? Anyone? On a 50 delta, for every dollar moved? Yep, 50 cents, right? So on 3 contracts, if it goes down $1, each contract is going to move, that's a total of what dollar amount movement on 3 contracts, right? $1.50, which is 150. So am I willing to risk, and am I willing to risk $150, right? To make, what did I say? We were almost, 4 to 1, right? So, if you're looking 4 to 1 there, you're looking, am I willing to risk, 150 to make 600 on, $1,000 total invested, right? That's where you figure your risk reward parameters. Yes, that fits. Yes, I'm willing to risk that. Yes, my account can handle that. 4 to 1 is good. I like this trade. I'm going to stop out if it gets below this level. My target is here. Okay, I like it. Does that make sense? So what did I mean, it's maybe been 2 minutes since we picked to this trade, and I was able to create a trade plan within 2 minutes of the initial alert, let's say, our pretend alert. But if you don't do this stuff in your head, all of this stuff, right? What's my contract work? So they're selling for about $3. Well, they're now at 310, 315. So I can buy three if $1,000 is my total, is, whatever your risk, whatever your account, is that 10% of your account, right? Do you have a $10,000 account, or are you only risking 5% in any one trade, right? You know that, and that depends on your account size. So then from that, how many contracts can you buy? Is it the right time to go full, or are you kind of in the middle, and so maybe you're buying one contract here with the idea that you're going to add two more if you get close to your stop out level, your support level. Am I willing to risk? My total risk would be 150, and it's actually going to be more because you're going to have to stop out below that level. So you factor, I'm actually technically risking more like $200 to make $600. And realistically, you're probably going to take it off a little early. So 200 to make 500, right? You just have to kind of sort that all out in your head and then decide, do I like this trade from, Nate Bear, D-Man, Nate G, whatever. Is this something that fits my parameters? Yes or no? Hit the buy button, or decide I don't think this fits with my risk parameters, so I'm going to leave this one alone. So these things have to fit before you, in my opinion, this is just my humble opinion, before you buy, before you enter a trade that somebody is suggesting, anyone suggesting, another member in this room, right? And there are times, that D-Man will say he likes something, and I'll look at it and I'll see what he likes, but I don't like it because it doesn't fit with my risk parameters or my account size, or or whatever. You just gotta, it's gotta fit it, or it doesn't fit my eye. Like for instance, this Microsoft trade. Okay, this could work. This doesn't really fit my eye that well. I'm really, because of this kind of double top, this sort of, this breakdown. But you see what a breakdown and reclaim can kind of do. It gets pretty bullish after that when we talk about breakdown and reclaim. So, I was just searching for a quick idea to talk about, right? If somebody put in this trade, I'd be like, it doesn't, maybe it fits my risk parameters. That's fine. Do I like the setup? I don't know. And you just have to kind of do that. Sometimes I'll look at a chart that somebody else likes and I'll be like, well, I don't like that at all. And it's just the way it sets up for my eye. So, is any questions on that? You really have to do that for because there's tons of ideas in here and tons of great ideas from all kinds of people, right? But it has to fit. You have to understand the trade before you put it on, in my opinion. Instead of just blindly putting it on and then asking, like, for instance, Nate, what are we doing with this? What are we doing with this? Should we cut it? I think it's great to ask questions, but developing your own trade plan and following it. Now, let's say you stop out. Let's say this thing drifts a little bit, and you stop out, and let's say it's a Nate Bear trade, and he doesn't stop out, and then all of a sudden does this, and he's, oh yeah, I made 400% on this trade, and you're like, well, I stopped out because it broke my level. To me, if you say that in chat and I see it, I'm gonna say, well done. Well done, which means you stopped out because you had a trade plan. And maybe Nate had a different trade plan, and I'm just picking Nate because he's obviously the lead of this service. Could be anyone, because he had a different trade plan. But always create your own trade plan and follow it. And then if you're stopping out of too many things, then too early, then you go, okay, I need to revise how I look at these charts and how I set up my trade plan. But the hardest thing in the world to do, in my opinion, is to follow your trade plan and get good at it. Too many people, and I've talked about this 1.5 million times, will get into a trade. They'll have a trade plan to stop out here, But then it'll go here and they're like, oh God, I missed my stop. Well, I'm going to see if it bounces off of this level. And oh, it's bouncing, it's bouncing, it's bouncing. This is great. Oh crap. Now I'm down here. It's going to bounce because I can't cut it right here because that would mean I have a 60% loss. And I'm just going to let it run and see if it comes back up to here. And then it kind of does this, and you're like, yes, I'm doing it. And then it gaps down the next day, and you're like, well, now that thing's going to expire for 100%, so I should just leave it on and see if it ever comes back to here. Meanwhile, Delta's over here just absolutely destroying your option contract, and you end up taking it off for zero or nearly zero into the Friday of that expiration because you didn't follow your trade plan. Right? And you were hoping, and then you were waiting, and then you were hoping again. We've all done it. Had you just cut it here, right? And then you watch it reclaim and you rebuy it here, and then you make the move, and you're like, you lost 100 here, and you made 600 here. Okay, so net your 500 plus. That's way better than letting $1,000 worth of option contracts go to zero. Right? So that to me is the key to this whole game. And that kind of piggybacks on what D-Man was talking about with risk parameters. Does it matter what time frame you choose to set up the initial support and resistance levels? Usually within the time frame that you're trading, right? So if I like this squeeze, excuse me, something in my throat. If I like this squeeze on the 78, I'm going to look at it on the 78. I'm going to get my major support and resistance levels. But then honestly, I'm trading this on a 5-minute or a 1-minute. But those levels are still in there. And then I'm like, okay, I'm coming into this level. This looks like a good buy spot. I'm coming into this level. I should probably take it off because we're coming up into resist. I'm marking it up on, the time frame I want to play it. But I'm probably trading. I tend to trade on a 1-minute, but I don't recommend that because you can get yourself a little panicked. But a 5-minute's fine. And your levels are in here. They stay in here. That's the great thing about this. From time frame to time frame, your levels just stay there. And so without having to go back to the 78-minute, I can see right where I'm at. Right? And that's the important key. Yeah, Mark, and that's one of the hardest things is if the trade is no longer valid, cut it. And you can reevaluate why you're cutting them later, and maybe you're making a mistake in your. I would rather cut too many trades and then reevaluate. Am I setting my support level at the right spot and my stop out level at the right spot? Do I need to do something different there than not cutting it and taking bigger losses, right? And having my account go in reverse, because that's not going to make me a better trader. Reevaluating why my support level is here, my support / stop out level is here, and is that still accurate? Should that be that way, or am I reading the chart wrong? And then if I am reading the chart wrong, I can reevaluate from there, but I'm still going to be disciplined on whatever I set for my stop in my trade plan. I'm honoring it. That is the hardest thing to do that's the psychology. That is the hardest thing to do for every new trader and any other trader that does this professionally, is to know when the chart is busted and to cut it and move on and not worry about it. Not spend any more mental capital on the fact that, because not all trades work, and we don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if Microsoft's going to continue to go up. I don't. Do you? Does anyone else? You don't. You take shots based on information you have. You manage your risk and your reward, and then the market does what it's going to do. you just have to be disciplined to not only take profits when it hits your mark, but also to cut it when it hits your stop level. That's what makes a successful trader, is the discipline to do those things. And what makes traders that blow up their accounts and quit trading is people that are not disciplined in doing those things. If you're playing something into earnings, I don't play any options through earnings. I like to play. Why didn't I stop out at Disney today, Sandra? Because Disney's was a beaut. Are you talking about W Day? Disney worked from Jump Street. Now, for me, Workday is a put credit spread. So I'm watching it. That's a more conservative approach. And it broke this support level. And I'm watching it into the close today to see what it does in terms of a reclaim or a retest and roll. It's looking a little more like a retest and roll. And I can take that off for a pretty minor overall loss. Where even if it took off, rocketed, another 50 points, I'm still capped of making, I can't remember what it was, $130 per spread contract. So that's the max I can make, because it's a more conservative approach. So in this breakdown, for me, I'm waiting to see what it does today, because I can still get out of it for a 30 or 40%. Like I could, I'm only going to lose $50 per contract, because I'm also waiting for theta decay, because I'm selling the options. It's a little bit more conservative approach. But if I had bought calls here and here, I would be out of it. Does that make sense? Maybe, Nick, that's a good question. Particular time frame you use for support and resistance? Yes and no. So, I mean, yes. There's always, yeah, sorry. It's not a completely yes and no. Like, we look at this crowd, 195, right? I'm playing, right? I'm playing this pattern right here. So I don't really need to look past this date, the 22nd, right? I just need to look at volume profile in here. Now, if I'm playing this for a short and a rollover and I need a target, okay, now I need to start looking a little further back to see where the next VP levels are, which would be kind of down into here. I'm not saying I'm playing this short, but you see what I'm saying? Now, if I'm playing this long, then all I need to see is this VP right here. If I'm playing this short down to there, I need to see this VP here, because I want to know where that level is, because that's my target. So that's these guys here. So it's all depending on the chart you're playing and the edge you're playing. Really, is that? I mean, that's the best way to answer that. And so, and if I'm playing this crowd long on the 195, I might not mark it up here on the 195 just because there's too few candles. I might look at it on a 78 and start to go, okay, so I see this trend line here. It comes up more clearly. If I look at it on the 30th, oh, now it's even more clear. Now I can start to see some more detail. When I come up here, this is all a bunch of triple tops. which I couldn't quite see as well on the 195. You can see it, but they're thicker lines. It starts to really shape up. Okay, that's my resistance level. Here's my point of control. I'm going to make that red, so everything I set up is the same. If I'm really truly looking for a value area low, God, it's probably kind of right in this area, but it's going to be somewhat ambiguous. So I'm going to pick, that level there, and I'm not going to confuse myself with this line here. So I'm just going to get rid of it because I'm playing long, right? And then it kind of starts to shape up here. You can see where I took my entry was right here off of this trend line as it's coming up. So it's just kind of an art as you go back and forth between the time frames. You can start to see more detail in the shorter time frames. All right, does anybody have any questions on that? That's it's going to pretty much wrap it up for me. Market looks a little heavy at the moment. A little heavy, although, we're kind of getting a consolidation on Disney, just so strong. Took that off a little early. Joan, I don't use a trailing stop in toss. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to remember how to do that. And I'll have to do that on another time. You can also just Google how to do that. It's just in your active trader, which is essentially this window. I just can't remember exactly how to do that in TOS. So you can Google it, or you can even talk to your Thinkorswim customer service. You can chat with them. They're great. Oh, really? Goyo? Yeah, I would watch one of my videos on Thinkorswim, and then you have to copy in the option chain, and so if you watch the where is it? I think I'll just put it in here for you. That'll probably make it easier. See if I can find it. Copying in the option chain is the best way to get active trader to trade those options. So I need to find, sorry, I'm looking for the video now, so it's going to be a little bit easier for you to find. It's not that one. Yeah, it should be in this one. And another time I can do a bunch of stuff in TOS, and we'll see.
You can even leave it as a line.
Sorry. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions there? Netflix is rolling over. That's sad. How's Tesla doing? Not great. Workday also not great. Things are heavy at the moment. Things are heavy. Yeah, no problem. I hope that was helpful for some of you. I'll post this up to YouTube here this afternoon, and I hope everyone else has a great day. Nate should be back in here at in about an hour. He comes on at 3, I believe, if I have that right. Great, John. That's great. I'm glad I could kind of piggyback off of what D-Man said and kind of add some clarity to some of that. So I will talk to everyone later.